what is Neon Genesis Evangelion? On the surface, it's giant mecha fights, apocalyptic monsters, high school drama, and shadowy political conspiracy. But at the same time, it isn't. Furthermore, its esoteric religious symbolism and labyrinthine plot are also a distraction from the true core of the series, its protagonist Shinji Ikari. Evangelion first aired in Japan on the 4th of October 1995, and is largely the creation of its director Hideaki Anno. It was produced by the studio Gainax, while now famous for popular titles like Gurren Lagann, Fooly Cooly, and the Cowboy Bebop movie, Neon Genesis Evangelion was only its second non-OVA production. Anno drew inspiration from shows like Space Runaway Ideon, Mobile Suit Gundam, Space Battleship Yamato, as well as his own battle with depression as a central focus for the show.
嫌いなところはどんなところですか？
自分が出てるところ?
The result was a stunning piece of science fiction anime, groundbreaking in almost every way. It revolutionized not only the mecha genre, but anime as a whole, going on to influence shows like Fooly Cooly, Serial Experiments Lain, and Tekken no Raizu, just to name a few. The 80s and 90s were a period of economic crisis for Japan, and its animation industry was in a slump. Amidst this, Evangelion drastically changed the way that anime was created, shifting the focus away from revenue and merchandising to greater creative freedom and auteur control. The irony of this, of course, is that Evangelion is a seemingly endless pool of merchandising revenue, reeling in a colossal $1.3 billion as of 2013. It's somewhat ludicrous that a show as absurd and surreal as Evangelion is at times could be as popular as it is. I mean, we're talking about a show that simultaneously has a freezer-dwelling, TV-watching, warm-water penguin named Pen Pen, and this.
あんたなんか死んでも代わりはいるのよ、レイ。私と同じね。
But Evangelion isn't just a deconstruction of mecha anime, or anime generally, but a deconstruction of all storytelling. One of the prime examples of this is the character of Shinji, who subverts the archetype of the Odyssean, strong-willed protagonist with his nature as a sensitive, damaged child, chosen only because he is biologically compatible with Eva 1. While most protagonists actively work for the cause of the narrative, Shinji constantly works against it, running away from piloting the Eva and his problems in general. While most protagonists are strong-willed and confident, Shinji shows self-doubt to the point of severe depression, constantly isolating himself and fleeing from intimacy. But that's really the point of his character and the entire show, really. A simulation of how someone like Shinji would react if they were placed into the stereotypical chosen one role, and then tasked with saving the entire world. Anno uses this conflict to create a duality between Shinji's internal reality and the external reality advanced by the show's narrative and symbolism. The complication here is that the narrative of Evangelion is gratuitously labyrinthine and esoteric, leaving many things unanswered or barely explained. And then there's the arcane religious symbolism, drawing reference from Kabbalah, Zoroastrianism, and most prominently Christianity. Christian crosses appear many times throughout the show, like the giant cross that emerges after the death of the first angel, or the necklace that Masato wears. Furthermore, much of Evangelion's in-universe jargon is derived from Christian myth, like the Lance of Longinus, the Magi, or Adam. But what's so interesting about this is that despite the symbolism and narrative being so complex and abstract, their importance is minimal in comparison to the internal explorations of Shinji. What most audiences are trained to do when watching film and television is to grab onto important details, like what's what, who's who, and what's going on. But when the narrative is as scrambled and abstract as Evangelion's is, it tends to either alienate viewers unused to this style of narrative, or result in people obsessed with discovering the quote-unquote truth of the series, down to the minutiae of every character, event, or shot. The latter is also why there's such a, let's just say, hermeneutically dubious obsession as to the significance of the Christian symbolism in the show, which is ironic considering the creators themselves have objected to this.
どうしてあのロボットみたいなものの名前がエヴァンゲリオンなんですか？
キリスト教の中の福音という言葉なんですけど、これはなんか福をもたらすもの。ギリシャ語なんですよ。複雑な感じがするからそういう名前にしました。
Or this quote from Kazuya Tsuramaki, co-director of End of Evangelion and the Rebuild films. There is no actual Christian meaning to the show. We just thought the visual symbols of Christianity looked cool. I think this obsession with the external aspects of Evangelion, and many shows really, is best described with this Bela Tarr quote. I really don't think when you do a movie that you have to think about the story. The film isn't the story. It's mostly picture, sound, a lot of emotions. The stories are just covering something. Evangelion is much the same. It was never about the external aspects of arcane symbolism, obtuse political conspiracy, or the narrative in general. These are simply condiments to an inner core, and at that core, Evangelion is about a 14-year-old boy dealing with alienation, isolation, and the fear of being wounded by intimacy, a reflection of Anno's own experiences. Evangelion is my life, and I have put everything I know into this work. This is my entire life, my life itself. While the ending of the TV series is highly unconventional and markedly different in almost every way from the rest of the show, it does stick to the core of what Evangelion's purpose was, an exploration of Shinji Ikari and all his faults. While fleeting images of the outside world flicker into view during this sequence, the external has almost been entirely superseded by the internal. Ultimately, Evangelion started in Anno's head and ended in Shinji's.
Fly